Skibidi dop, 79 dropped. We got the full episode faster than anyone expected, and towards the end we finally got a small glimpse at Titan Speakerman 3.0, and the madness that 79 Part 3 began is back and even stronger than before. So, once again, let's unpack it all. Yo guys, Plunger here. Right at the end of 79, we got an image of Titan Speakerman's face. It's absolutely covered in red glows though. Ah, that's better. So, what can we spot on this ginormous bot? Firstly, most people's eyes were drawn right down here, with what looks like an 8 and a 0. Well, what this actually is a large Speakerman head model, but upside down. I think it's interesting to have those smaller speakers get cut off like that. He's never had those in the past. There's also these small black lines here, which people took to be two number ones. I'm not so sure though. They don't look very well defined at all to me. Some have said that this Titan Speakerman looks thicker. I suppose I get what they mean, as the large Speakerman head model makes his eye way bigger than it used to be, where his eye was actually part of a smaller speaker placed on top of his main head. He has a propulsion ring on his back as most people expected he would, though it doesn't look quite as big as some others we've seen. His lower speaker seems to be separated into two halves. You can see here that both halves are at slightly different angles, and there's now something else between them in the center. We don't get a good look, but it seems rounded. He has a curved upper eyebrow now, as opposed to the flat one he had previously. It might even be a fully rounded helmet model. Interestingly, the Speakerman took inspiration from the protection that the Skibidi Toilets gave him, and included their own version of the armored speaker siding. And take a look towards the sides. He has metal connections between his head and side speakers. What does that remind you of? Well, if you're merch obsessed like I am, you'd recognize this kind of thing from the toys. If you ever see merch or the Invis model in general, you'll see similar connections between his head and shoulder speakers which seem to lock his head in place. You know, I'm quite curious who's designing him. It might not be Boom, since, if you remember, Strider was the one to design the Speaker Armada units previously. And yep, that's really about it, guys. That's our extra scene. Okay, I know what you're thinking.
What about the quality?
So, there are indeed some changes to the existing sections within the full episode. Much of the audio in Part 3 was improved. The voice lines now have more reverb, the music is louder, and sounds no longer repeat the way they did previously. We also recently learned that Strider helped with sounds in Part 3. Getting help from talented folks for things like sound design is a great idea. Something I'm curious about is how many source files Boom shares with people he outsources work to, or if he just leaves it up to them to try and match his work as closely as they can. Anyway, what about the video editing? Yep, once more the discussion and worries and upset over the quality of the episode has taken center stage. And well, yeah, no surprise because some really odd things were done to this episode once again. The editing issues in Part 3 are still present, completely unchanged. The entire video is also limited to 1080p for some reason. In addition, Part 1 suffered the same fate as Part 3 when it comes to the editing. We now have obnoxious transitions we didn't have before. I mean, look at this one when we run out of the base. We see the outside overlaid on screen for a moment before we even reach the door. Then the main transition, which doesn't line up at all, is covered up by a big fuzzy overlay. Bit suspicious at this point, eh? We get an entire scene rendered without the lens glare shader, which was introduced in 78, and a section which is 20 frames per second, in a 60 frames per second video. Not only that, but some new issues with the actual animation cropped up in the re-rendered section. Like these particles just yeeting off screen for no reason. It's the same situation as before, and naturally, it overtakes the conversation. And I'm totally there with you guys. It's quite odd. There's more, but really in my previous video, I've made every point I can about the goofy episode quirks without making assumptions on why. I'm not gonna yap for the sake of it. What's more interesting to discuss is the communications we've been receiving from Boom, if we can even call them that. Since 79 Part 3 released, we haven't received a single sincere word from Boom. Not a drop, not a crumb. Though, after the full episode, there have been some, interactions from Boom. And he's been doubling down with the whole AI troll vibe. We've been seeing some emails, apparently from Boom, written with the same overly polite ChatGPT flavor we saw previously. In this one here, he names himself Kenley, W. Kenley in the comments, guys. And this one states that he is shifting his focus away from Skibidi Toilet. Oh dear. These emails can be worrying, but it's pretty obvious these are insincere given the adopted persona, so we really can't take much from them as fact. Also, frustratingly, Boom likely won't be confirming emails as legit like he usually would, especially if his AI troll bit continues. We also have this update from one more animator, with more ChatGPT talk, including this interesting voice note from Boom regarding whether he is a clanker. Let's listen.
Howdy everyone. Following recent online discussions, I wish to officially confirm that I am not and have never been a clunger. I remain a completely human, organic entity composed of natural biological matter. Any resemblance to a mechanical life form is purely coincidental and should not be interpreted as evidence of non-human composition. Sincerely, DaFuq.
Oh my god, guys. Boom's a heckin' clanker. Actually, it's Boom pretending to slur words like ChatGPT in those videos you may have seen where they get it to trip up on repeated characters. In addition to this, Boom's been liking various posts which joke about his new robot persona, sometimes unliking them immediately. So, you can draw your own conclusions from this as to Boom's motives here. Finally, I've seen a lot of concern about the Skibidi Toilet series due to these recent oddities. And it's frustrating for people that an episode they enjoyed a lot has been somewhat sabotaged for seemingly no reason, at least for now. And I definitely understand why people are reacting this way. I mean, having a whole full episode of the flagship series just sitting there, in an unfinished state, in the roster forevermore, is a bit disconcerting to say the least. Some believe this spells the end or downfall of the series. Some are pointing to fan animations that apparently surpass the recent episode as a sign that Boom is falling off. Essentially, many people are acting like Boom has just forgotten how to make good videos all of a sudden. But obviously that's not what's happening. Boom has proven his skill well over 78 times by now. He obviously knows how odd this is more than any of us, and knows what he's doing, even if we aren't sure why. So don't let this troll, or whatever you think it is, dictate how you feel the series is heading in the future. It's far too soon for all the doom and gloom. Anyway guys, I do hope Boom is doing well, taking care of himself. Hopefully we unlock the source of this mystery soon. Oh, and since he's an AI now, I've found what the next episode of Skibidi Toilet will look like.
I'm a CEO in a porcelain spa. Skibidi, skibidi, yes, yes.
Absolute cinema. Subscribe.